All right, folks, we're back here. The phone number, call us or text us today, 870-275-9799. A familiar name on this program in the last 2 weeks has been Senator Linda Collins-Smith, and we keep having, it's been a lot of discussion on the campus carry. We talked about it last hour, but joining us now, Senator Linda Collins-Smith, back with us. Welcome.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having me.
Tell us what the status is. I mean, HB 1249 passes with this amendment. I see you voted no on it because it wasn't the amendment that the NRA originally backed this time last week. What's going on? Well,
I think it's if the members can hear part of or watch your video later on and watch the testimony, it's pretty obvious they had to work to get their 18 votes today. They even did all the tricks on the floor. They got their men. We want to do a motion to waive this and do that. And they literally had to work to have it today because I had already told Senator Hutchinson, we have people here to speak today in the committee after the committee's over with. They're here. And he asked if I was going to run that bill. Very interesting, he even came to see me about it because he typically will just not show up or tell us we're not having a meeting. And it was on the calendar again. And I said, they're here if we have to meet on the steps of the Capitol. And so, of course, he left to do an interview, and the rest of us stayed there in session to do our work, and we're ready to meet if he'd called the meeting. And he chose not to again and said, oh, come Monday morning.
Okay, so this is your new bill, which we haven't covered. What's the bill number on that? I can't remember it.
I don't know, but on HB 1249, the original bill truly was just actually loosened up and gave us some of the rights, and that was to let professors carry on campus. And that bill I supported. I had my name on it. I compliment Senator Collins. He has worked for
He's worked really hard
6 years
this.
for this.
No
I mean, 3 sessions, but for 6 years on this. And I have to tell you that I appreciated him. I was proud of him. The only reason I filed a clean bill was because the bill has taken so many different shapes, and it was hostile and amendment put on it, and they've added all these restrictions, which I would have never had my
you
name on.
You can't have it in a dorm room, and I know a lot of people are like, well, I wouldn't support that. Well, I mean, the whole purpose is, I mean, you're going to walk from your car at night, and you can't protect yourself. It's just really strange. And with all these restrictions, this new enhanced licensing that you have to get.
More hours, more money to get them.
I don't think more. Yes, is it going to be possible for people to arm themselves on college campuses? Yeah, but I don't think many people are going to jump through these hoops. I mean, maybe they will, but I think this was about Governor Hutchinson not trusting individuals with their Second Amendment rights.
I don't think he's Second Amendment supporter. I think he's already been spanked by the NRA when he first started, and I think that they did that publicly. They had to go, whoa, we don't support
background checks, enhanced background checks.
And I say that, and I really want to stand and work with my governor where I can, and I will. But I'm telling you, to go against our Second Amendment rights, to be attacked by the very people that are saying that they're carrying that bill, the governor supports it, well, that's concerning to me as a Second Amendment supporter. And I know that the NRA worked with them to get some kind of bill out, and I think at this point maybe they didn't care at this point.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put it all on the NRA, although I do not respect that they decided to take a butchered bill when a clean bill was laying on the table, and they've already supported my amendment.
I was pretty upset with the NRA. I kind of melted down last hour about it. It just seemed like they were convinced that, we need to work with ASA, and maybe sometimes lobbyists do this because they're like, well, we're going to have to work with him in the future on things, and it's like, good luck. I mean, it's just a strange situation that we're in right now.
It is, and I also say that if you look at the vote and if you had watched the video on how that went down, it was not easy to get those votes. They had to do everything under the sun to get a bill in the floor, get it re-referred. They did everything that they could to manipulate, change it, pull it, change it, do everything they could, and run it because they know that we have people going to come back on Second Amendment issues to try to get our rights back.
The positive thing on this is we have a bill, a clean bill, like you said, and it's actually broader than campus carry, right? Is that am I interpreting that right, or am I wrong?
My bill was just a true Second Amendment bill. It just is, you can carry on campus because our institutions have decided not to allow it.
Okay.
And, they
so
supported even the amendment. It did have an error in it. So when Senator Garner said today to Senator Lindsey that there's no restriction left in that bill. What's odd that he said that, because he told Jan Morgan something else. He told her that bill has a restriction in it on the amendment, and then NRA admitted they failed to get part of that out on the amendment that I had. And so although it does, storage is one thing. You can't just store it unattended. You might get away with that, but that could be it's very questionable in that bill. So he knew when he answered that question, he had already told Jan Morgan, that, and he'd already told me that restriction was there. So that was a shame that we see he cannot keep, he doesn't know what side of the fence on the Second Amendment he's on.
Why do you think it's unique in 1249? What's unique about schools? If you want to carry in a mall, you don't need extra training. Why do you have to need it? Why do you need extra training at a school? Why do you think that is? What's going on in their heads when they?
Thank you for asking that, and I'll tell you that because I asked the same thing to Senator Hutchinson. If you watch the audio or the video of him diverting and attacking me and using his service record as a military guy, and Mr. Garner, he attacked me to divert from the question. Why does the governor, if he says he's a Second Amendment supporter, support all these restrictions and won't allow my daughter to have, if she were on campus, to defend herself? And then you heard what Garner said after that. So both of them, it was like an attack for Senator Hutchinson to divert. Don't question him. Well, guess what? I have military people that question why he's not supporting the Second Amendment. They swear an oath to support that Constitution. They want to know why they would support all these restrictions. So you asked that question, and I got the diversion, and so I have said to you before, thank God I have a military family. Because I was able to say, don't question me. I'm sorry, I have stand a lot to lose too, and so does my little girl if she were on a campus.
Such a strange, interesting, it's all ASA. That's the reason that, like you said, Representative Collins' bill, he's been trying to do this for a while. It was certainly a campus carry bill originally before the hostile amendment, and now we are where we are, and I know everyone's going to congratulate each other and say that it's better than it was, but we know how the sausage was made, and it just seems like there were some Republican principles that were not adhered to, and I wonder if the people back home will ever find out about it. We've got to go, but we've got 30 seconds. Senator Colin Smith, I'll give you the last word.
Thank you, and I hope that when this amendment goes back to the House, they do not support the restrictions in this bill, because guess what? With it is going to come higher fees, higher costs. You have not heard from the state police. They are silent on this, and I think this is exactly what the governor wanted, is a few more taxes.
More revenue. Senator Linda Collins Smith, everybody, 870-275-9799. Back in a minute.
Have long been an advocate, sometimes loud, sometimes quiet, for starting over with a blank sheet of paper on the tax code. I do not mean the income tax. I mean the entire code. Our code is indefensible. Our code is too complex. Our code hurts job growth. Our code is not competitive. Our code, in some rankings, is a joke. That's just a fact. And our code, this was acknowledged in a way by then Governor Clinton in 1979, if I have my dates right. Our code is so bad that we have to give one of our border towns an exemption from it. Am I right?
Texarkana.
Yeah, I think we know about this, don't we? Texarkana? And let me say for the record, I fully support the relief they get. I think they ought to keep it. If it were up to me, we'd give a bunch more people relief. If I were a border town, I'd say, why not me? And then I'd say, well, this is 2016. It's not like if you're 30 miles from the border, you don't compete with Texas. I mean, come on. The whole state competes with Texas. The fact that folks in 1979, if I have my date right, gave an exemption to one of our towns because the code was so bad that people were moving across the border. The fact that we didn't fix the code, we didn't take the miners out of the coal mine, we just put a respirator on the canary. That tells you all you need to know. You don't have to listen to Tim Griffin. Listen to the folks that did that back then. So the fact that there's a willingness to look at the whole deal encourages me, and is part of the reason why in the intermediate to short term I am more understanding of some of the pay-fors that are floating around this side. So that's a long answer to a short question, but so.
Thank you, sir. And also, I'm in agreement with just about everything you said. And I would commend your record serving in Congress. You served with distinction, and I certainly appreciate that. So you certainly understand the position that we are in here today.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to ask one more pointed question.
Yes, sir.
If you will. My district, I have approximately 28,000 folks in my district, and I have probably around 2,000, best I can tell from the last of the consensus from the state or from the United States, of 2,000 folks. So basically, out of the 28,000 folks in my district's not getting a tax cut, if you were still serving in my capacity or your capacity as a United States Congressman and this happened, how could you go back to those other 28,000 folks saying we're not going to give them some type of tax relief and we're giving the veterans a tax relief? Well,
if I were in charge, we'd be giving a whole bunch more tax relief than you can. I'd give them all tax relief. But let me say this. I think as part of tax reform, I think the whole tax code can be reformed. Corporate, business, franchise, income, property, our property tax system. Talk to the people that oversee the consistency across the different counties. It makes a lot of it. They don't even understand some of what's going on. So I think there's first thing I'd say to them. There's an opportunity to give.
The Paul Harrell Program.
From the Marble Palace, we're back here. Paul Harrell here. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality, the Liberty Machine. And we are joined now with Mr. Josh Waters. Josh is an attorney with Political Strategies. Josh is also the client for Political Strategies is Conduit for Action over at conduitforaction.org. We have week number 8, part 1, the legislative scorecard. And there's a few things, items on this one. You can go there right now, conduitforaction.org, and we can start with, let's see, HB 1700. First of all, Josh, welcome.
Hey, Paul, thanks for having me.
I'm sorry.
It's good to be back.
It's a lot, man. It's been a long day.
It has been.
You were in the gas tax committee with me, right?
I was.
Yeah.
Man, that was rough. I was in there. I testified against the gas tax increase, and one of the main points I made, and you've talked about already, is this deceptive ballot title. Mm-hmm. And if it's presented to the people and it's deceptive and it's misleading, it might pass by 51, 52, 53%, and it's going to be because the margins are going to be so close. It's going to be because people were deceived and they don't know what they really voted on. And when they go to the gas pump, they're going to realize what they voted on is a gas tax increase.
Yeah. We get real close to that liar word, but I don't know if you look at what John Woods did. I mean, these people, got this guy. He's been indicted for taking money from taxpayers illegally. and or allegedly, I guess it's in an indictment. But then you get the next issue 3 that was about economic development and jobs. It was a deceptive ballot title. John Wood's the first issue 3 was a deceptive ballot title about ethics. So now they're kind of doing it again with a tax increase, and at some point, I mean, if they just keep doing this, and legislators aren't submitting amendments to change the ballot title, that's deceptive. And we talked about that in the last hour. I just, you just get real close to that liar word. But anyway, the Conduit for Action scorecard, HB 1700, it says that Conduit for Action supports this. Tell us what this does.
Yeah, it might seem odd. This is an appropriation bill, and it might seem odd, Conduit supporting a new appropriation. But what this actually does, it's an appropriation for $30 million to the Secretary of State's office to get new voting machines. And I think most people across the state would agree that voting machines and voting is a core function of government. And so one of the main reasons we support this is we have a great Secretary of State here, Mark Martin, and his office has really been run very efficiently. In fact, in his first term, they came in under budget by $12 million and returned that money back to the Treasury, to the taxpayers of Arkansas. And so, this is when you have a track record like that, I think, to come and say, hey, we need this money for voting machines, I think that's, totally a responsible way to do that. And so that's why we're supporting this bill. It's sponsored by Representative Gonzalez, and we just think it's smart and would help the taxpayers actually get something they need.
I've actually talked to some in the Secretary of State's office about these new voting machines, and it's going to be real the efficiency. I'm told it's going to be way up. I mean, we're going to know voting results. A few of these I think some of the new machines are in certain places, and the time that the people working the polls get to go home is extremely early. I mean, it's very efficient, and they say, they're not networked, so they're difficult to hack, and it's kind of all Battlestar Galactica. If you know anything about Battlestar Galactica, no network computers aboard the ship. All right. Next up, well, we just mentioned this one, HB 1726 and HB 1727 opposed. This is the gas tax increase.
That's right, and I would encourage your listeners to go over to conduitforaction.org. We really went all the way through the bill and put down everything that's out there. One thing that's changed since we added this to the scorecard, in the original version of the bill, there is the possibility of a special election being called to pass this. That was taken out. But everything else there, they can go and read the full picture. And we led off on the scorecard mentioning Representative Dan Douglas, the sponsor of this bill, in a quote to the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. He said that this could be maybe it's a revenue increase, and some people might say it's a tax increase.
Yeah.
And I think that's really unfortunate. We've seen it over and over again this session. They're trying to split hairs and try to find a way that they can pass these bills without calling it a tax increase or a new tax. Well, my opinion, I think a lot of people across the state think if they're not paying it before, it's not on there before, and they're paying it after, that's a new tax. If it's one rate before and it's higher after, that's a tax increase.
Yeah, and people are going to feel this, number one. Number two, it's coming, folks. We're going to have a timeline, and I'd like it to be one of those timelines like from school, where you have the the dawn of ancient Egypt and then Greece and Rome, but just a simple one that says, state legislature meets 91st General Assembly, and before this is what you were paying in taxes, after this is what you're paying in taxes. It's going to be a massive increase. It's a massive increase. Next up, Senate Bill 448, Conduit for Action supports this. What is this, Josh?
Senate Bill 448 by Senator Bart Hester and Representative Jeff Wardlaw. And basically what this would do, it would just give some more negotiation authority whenever someone is bidding on a project. There's going to be more negotiation available if they can't reach a compromise. I think it's just better to allow for lower prices is the ultimate goal instead of these are your bids, you have to accept one. Instead, they can now, let's negotiate even lower price. That might be, the lowest bid, but, it's just going to allow more leadway to negotiate a lower price.
It says the bill adds some needed teeth to this process by giving a maximum bid price that can be accepted in the negotiations process. The bill also adds a new definition for collusion to include price fixing, bid rigging, customer or market allocation, misrepresenting the independence of the relationship between colluding parties, and exerting improper influence on public officials to obtain advantage in a public procurement. I don't know. Jake File's not going to like this one. I mean, this is sounds a lot, pretty much exactly what he did. The term bid rigging rings true to me, but.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. With those added definitions, I think it's very broad definitions to protect against corruption in these taxpayer-funded contracts and projects. And so I think these savings, that we could see from this could provide a way to shrink government moving forward, and ultimately part of the economic freedom filter. If it shrinks government, then we're going to support it, and this is a way we think it might could.
Yeah, that's good. We're talking with Josh Waters from Political Strategies. This is the Conduit Action scorecard that we're going over. All right, Senate Bill 504. This is also a bill that Conduit for Action supports. Josh, what does this do?
Senate Bill 504 is sponsored by Senator Jan English and Representative Mark Lowry. And this bill would basically move school board elections have to be part of the general election. Right now, I think basically they can decide, but I think most have the school board elections in September. So this would say, hey, it's going to be part of November. I think that's good because it prevents double elections, basically just 2 months
saves
apart.
Money. Yeah.
That's exactly right. It saves the local government's money in having to put on 2 elections when they can hold them at the same time. So again, seems like a simple bill. But it could save some money, so we're going to support it.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Senate Bill 512. Senate Bill 512, Conduit for Action supports. What does this do?
This is one of my favorites this session, actually. It's a bill by Senator Linda Collins Smith, and I've been really encouraged by her that she's filed some great conservative legislation.
This is one of those days it's hard to keep your head up, but, you just got to keep fighting because that's when you win,
That's right, and I think people need to realize, the senators who are down here really fighting for the people are senators like Senator Linda Collins Smith, Senator Brian King, Senator Terry Rice, and others, and, it encourages me to know they're down here, but they need more.
Yeah,
and they need their
Scott
they
Flippo,
need the
Gary
sports.
Stubblefield
Absolutely.
as well. You got to give them a shout out, and then you've got representatives that are impressing me like Grant Hodges, Austin McCollum being a freshman. He's really impressive too. So there are those down here. They're not in leadership positions, and that's the problem here. We have power structures that somehow are negating principles in political platforms, quite honestly. Anyway, this is one of your favorite bills, SB 512. Tell us why.
It is. I think a lot of people have heard about President Trump's executive order that would basically require any new rules and regulations that an agency would put in place at the federal level. They have to repeal two rules. Well, this is kind of builds on that. Basically, it says for a state agency to implement a new rule, they're going to have to repeal another rule. And so at the end of the day, less regulations, I think, helps everyone. And so it's, again, a simple bill, but does it grow or shrink government? We think it could shrink government, so we're supporting it.
All right. That's SB 512, requires state agencies to repeal at least one rule for each new rule they propose. Next up on the conduitforaction.org scorecard, House Bill 1717 says the Conduit for Action opposes this. Why, Josh?
Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's an overregulation, it's an increase in government, it's a decrease in the freedom for Arkansans. But specifically, this bill is by Representative Sorvillo, and it would...
Jim Sorvillo, he's a Republican from House District 32.
That's right, and it would require any person who offers or attempts to offer a dog or cat for sale in the state, they would have to register as a seller with the Department of Health to sell a dog or a cat.
Yeah.
I know he's been really big on the idea of puppy mills, but we think this just goes way too far. It's going to be increased costs. They're going to have to pay registration fees, and anytime they have to get a registration number, and anytime they run advertisements, they have to put that registration number. And if they don't, they could be brought up on criminal charges for leaving that off. And so we just think it's excessive occupational licensing.
Absolutely. You're selling dogs and cats or cats, you get criminal penalties for regulation violations. That's what it says here. Required registration for those selling dogs and cats. I mean, that's something the voters were screaming about. I don't know about you. They went to the polls and they said, we're tired of all these unlicensed dogs and cat sellers.
Yeah, no, I didn't hear that anywhere. If maybe there's 3 or 4 of them, but at the end of the day, and the part of the economic freedom filter, does it grow or shrink government, or does it increase or decrease dependency on government?
Yeah.
I think it increases dependency. We're saying, hey, this is something the government should be all involved in, and by the way, you're going to be a criminal if you don't follow our rules.
Yeah, the failure to register or renew as a seller with the Department of Health would be a Class C misdemeanor, up to 30 days in jail, and up to $500 fine. Well, that's so the increase of dogs would go. Did you mention that already? Did you just mention that in here? So the increase in the price of dogs and cats would likely go up if you want a pet.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Anytime you add a new regulation or fee or tax on something, that's always passed on to the consumer.
Yeah.
So for whoever's selling dogs and cats out there, for them to comply, that's going to be an increase in costs, and that's going to raise the prices.
Some people just aren't really responsible enough to have a pet, so we probably do need to increase the tax. In order to exercise that right to own a pet. It needs to be highly regulated. Kind of like the Second Amendment. A lot of people aren't responsible with guns. They don't need them, or they need more obstacles to make sure that we really can trust them with guns. It's like they want to do that with dogs too. It's weird. Anyway. All right. Conduit for Action scorecard. Conduitforaction.org. The next bill that we're scoring today, SB 514, Conduit for Action supports. What does this do, Josh?
This would basically allow more flexibility on the supervision of apprentice plumbers. It's a bill by Senator Bart Hester and Representative Dotson, and he actually ran this bill yesterday in Senate Public Health I was in, and it did pass out of that committee. And the way he explained it actually was last session they came in and redid this bill, and they actually made it a little harder on apprentice plumbers, or those, I think, in the 4th year of working to become a full licensed plumber or master plumber, that they would still have. This would let them have indirect supervision rather than direct supervision, and so I think that's a good thing. It expands the opportunity for them to go out on their own jobs and work on this and communicate back with the master plumber of what's going on, and so allows them to be in more places rather than direct supervision being there.
Okay. What else? HB 1757, oppose. This is by Republican David Hillman.
Yes, there was an amendment today, so I want to go back and check that amendment. But right now, we do oppose it, and a big part of this would require off-premises caterers to register with the Secretary of State, and it mandates insurance coverage requirements. And I think that's just fundamentally anti-free market.
Well,
if you want
more regulations for catering,
for catering, like who knew? Like going back to your line, like who's out there screaming the caterers are out of control?
There's so many caterers here. There's too many dog breeders and caterers, and it's a crisis. They need to be reined in. I'm telling you, that's why I voted for Asa. That's why I voted for David Hillman, or whoever this guy is that I really didn't vote for. We got to get these caterers under control. They're crazy.
Yeah, and so basically what this would do would make it harder, because maybe just someone who does catering on the side, or, a small business, someone who just does it, maybe as a second business even, this would require them to have insurance coverage of up to $1 million, and previously it was $200,000.
Yeah.
And so, that's a significant increase, and that's going to cost them to get that higher coverage.
I can't imagine the amendment would change anything unless it's like, here's an amendment that erases everything in the bill.
That would be good. That would be good. Let the free market work.
Last up, Senate Bill 524, Conduit for Action opposes this. What does this do, Josh?
Okay.
Oh, I see the sponsor, Senator Jeremy Hutchinson.
Yeah, that's kind of why I sighed. But Senate Bill 524 is another HVAC repair regulation bill. It increases the rules violation penalties. I think the most egregious thing, it specifically outlaws payments for those who do HVAC repair work without a license. So if you go out there and help someone do some repair work and someone gives you $50, you can no longer have that money, and the government gets it now. Under this bill, you can't accept the payments. It outlaws
what about
those
the pay?
payments.
What about the person that does pay? Are they breaking the law?
That That's not in the bill, but so basically the person who's doing the work, it would be on them.
Wow.
And they could be deemed guilty of a Class B misdemeanor and shall be punished by a fine not exceeding $1,000 or 90 days in jail.
Sometimes I wonder, does Senator, I wonder if Senator Jeremy Hutchinson has like a client that's in the HVAC business, it's just so strange to me. This bill would increase the penalties from $250 to $1,000 HVAC. I mean, is this what we did? The caterers, the dog breeders, and the air conditioning men are out of control. Let's all go to the polls and let's back in the old air conditioning tragedy of '88. That galvanized the public. It's about time we did something about all that. I mean, this is ridiculous. None of this makes sense. These guys just keep growing government and doing the bidding of special interest.
Yeah, I really don't understand this one. There has to be a better way than just saying, hey, with all that money you got because you didn't get our permission first, hey, you don't get to keep that. Ultimately, when you think about whenever people license, with licensing and regulations on occupations, professional boards and everything, I think the fundamental key is public safety and public health and public welfare. I don't know. There's nowhere in this bill that says, well, if they do this and someone's hurt or something happens, it's just if you do it. So I don't know what they can argue and say, well, this is for the public health and safety of the state of Arkansas, because that's not in the bill.
Interesting. Josh Waters with Political Strategies. Thanks for going over the Conduit for Action scorecard, week number 8.
Thanks for having me, Paul. I just want to mention this is part 1. Part 2 probably be coming out tomorrow. As you know, with the filing deadline this past Monday, there's been a flurry of bills, so we're trying to make sure we cover everything and keep people informed, but also get the word out as we do that. So look for part 2 and keep checking conduitforaction.org for the legislative scorecard.
Or you can go there once. You can put your email address in on the right side of the page and click subscribe, and you'll get the updates yourself. And also, they have the scorecard year to date, starting all the way back HB 1011, and you can see all the ones that they've decided to score, and what's the legislature doing. What are they doing in your name? Ladies and gentlemen, before we go to break, I want to tell you about the Northeast Arkansas Real Estate School. They offer continuing education classes for your local boards of realtors, your local offices, and they'll even offer discounts for large groups. The Northeast Arkansas Real Estate School will come to you anywhere in Arkansas. They'll set up shop, and they'll teach anywhere in Arkansas. Did I say that already? They'll make learning fun and motivating at the same time. The Northeast Arkansas Real Estate School. They're licensed by the Arkansas Real Estate Commission. They've got to adhere to their rules and regulations. But I would just ask you to give them a call today. 870-336-4155. That's 870-336-4155. You can find out about class times. You can schedule things at neaprofessionalschools.com. That's neaprofessionalschools.com. And if you thought about becoming a licensed real estate agent before, this is for continuing education, but they also will teach you the real estate business so that you can become a licensed real estate agent with only 6 days of class. 6 days. And if you mention the Paul Harrell program, you'll receive 10% off. Mention my name, Paul. Get 10% off. Go there now. neaprofessionalschools.com. Back in a moment.
Good morning. Good morning. Congratulations, you have made it to the Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language, where we strive to offer politicians the very best in ambiguously specific language, the purpose of which is to allow our politician bosses to grow government and keep their constituents in the dark. This yields 2 beneficial outcomes. First, the government-growing politicians stay in office, and second, we at the Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language get to remain in the shadows and get to keep our jobs. Now, it's time for technocrat training drills. Johnny?
Yes?
A politician wants to use the healthcare system to punish those who have and redistribute their wealth. What is the appropriate language to use in this situation to make an unpopular idea acceptable to the public?
I would emphasize that these ideas would make their healthcare more affordable and make sure the public understands if they already have adequate healthcare, nothing will change for them.
Very Very good, Johnny. Much progress since last time. Next up, let's have Susie. Susie, your politician has been caught in, dare I say it, a lie.
What kind of a lie?
It doesn't really matter, but in the spirit of the Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language, I will give you a good hypothetical scenario. Dozens of politicians have been thrown out of office for supporting a socialist health care program. So the remaining politicians get together and they pass a bill to, quote, end the program, end quote. But they really want to keep it. What should they do, Susie?
May I ask a question for more information?
Certainly.
Has the word lie been used by the political opposition?
Yes.
I know. They should change the name of the program. Maybe use the word works to make the sheeple think it's for working folk. Then they should go on the attack and get the public distracted. I would advise the politician to publicly question why our political dialogue has become so uncivilized and tell them to claim using the word lie, no matter how accurate, is a personal attack on his or her character. And if they admit to any wrongdoing at all, they must replace the word lie with words like misspoke, misstatement, misrepresent, or mislead.
Amazing! Excellent work, Susie. I feel like the student has really become the teacher. You will make a terrific addition to the Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language.
All hands on deck. This is a Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language emergency. Several politicians are scrambling after being exposed by some talk radio host. Let's move it, people. They need our help.
The Bureau of Carefully Crafted Language. You vote them in, and we keep them in. PHP Parody.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time that we have for today. But we have one more hour for our Mountain Talk 97 audience coming your way next, so don't go anywhere. And it was a pretty explosive hour, but a lot of good information that you don't want to miss about the gas tax that passed out of committee today, as well more on the Second Amendment and where we are with the gun bills and things like that. As always, we're going to have Johnny Cash Friday tomorrow, so you can feel free to give me your requests. A lot of people don't know we do this, but you can text me, leave me a voicemail, send me your Johnny Cash Friday request. What music do you want to hear? For those of you that don't ever listen on Friday, Johnny Cash Fridays, when we at the Paul Harrell program listen to as much Johnny Cash music as we possibly can, while at the same time peppering in the news and events of the day and the week. I'll be back in studio tomorrow. It's Friday. So start the beginning of your weekend with us on the Paul Harrell program as we talk news and we listen to the man in black. That's all the time we have. Arkansas, can't do the show without you. Thank you so much from the Marble Palace. Arkansas, be safe.